Welcome to North Star Big Book. My name is Carly Israel, and I am your host. My sobriety date is January 27th, 1999, and I created this podcast simply to share the message of the Big Book. It completely changed my life. It always changes my life, and I hope it can help change yours. Hi, Carly, recovered alcoholic. Welcome to North Star Big Book. Who do I have here today?
I'm an alcoholic and my name's Joel. It's great to be here.
Hi, Joel. It is so good to have you. This is one of my AA brothers in the Big Book and brother in AA. Tell us your sobriety date.
My sobriety date is April 11 of 2014.
How did we connect?
So, yeah, I just wanted to start by just really thanking you. A couple of years ago, I was going through one of those situations in sobriety. Relationship was ending. And I got to this kind of crossroads in sobriety where I was not doing much with the program at all, going to a couple of meetings a week at best. And I was just lost and everything was crumbling around me. And I just said, I need to turn back into this program. I need to turn back into the book and into the fellowship. And I was waking up early in the mornings and I started looking for things to listen to. And I found your podcast. And I would get up sometimes at 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'd start listening to your episodes. And so I just want to start with some gratitude to you because you were saying things and sparking things in me. And I'm like, where's this coming from? And it just, the more I've searched, the more I've found. And
first of all, I love that idea. The more I searched, the more I found. I needed to hear this specifically today because two things. One, when I was first recording it, I was like, what if no one even listens to this? And I was just told, like, one person needs to hear it. That's my only business.
Yep.
And I created a new podcast that is for my business about divorce coaching. And when I look at the numbers each week, I'm like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to make this do something? And I need to remember what I was taught in AA. It is not my business what the results are. My only business is to do the work and do a good job and then get out of the way.
Yeah.
So I need to trust.
And we have some amazing mediums now, right?
Yeah.
Like technology has opened up a whole world of communication that we never had before. And people search for, recovery, sobriety. They search for answers online. And so to find it, it's beautiful.
I had a meeting on Friday night and it was the coolest thing. It was like New York and Florida and Texas and Washington. It was like AA all over. And it was amazing. This is the good part of COVID, but let's get into the book. So First of all, why did you choose the pages you chose?
I chose the pages I chose, which are going to be page 75 and 76. And we're going to go from where we are introduced to the 5th step promises. And we're going to go through the 2 paragraphs that cover steps 6 and 7. These few paragraphs mean so much to me today, so much more because of actually having had an experience with them now. And that for me has been a huge shift in these last couple of years. Going from what I would say, having a lot of belief systems to really just experiencing the results and the promises of this program and experiencing the steps in a new way. As I've been open to going through them again and doing the work again. And I love this section. I think there's some real gold in here that we can dig into. So do you want me just to read a little bit and share?
Yeah, before you get us to the 5th step promises, I would love if you could just read that little paragraph at the top when we decide, so we can just let the listener know why we have to do this and what we're doing.
Yes. So for some context, before we get into the promises, in talking about the 5th step, let's read this paragraph. It starts off at the top of page 75. When we decide who is to hear our story, we waste no time. Again, I'm given these constant reminders as I'm going through this process of really as we end the 3rd step prayer, we're given a lot of like pushing to move through, aren't we? We're told, next we do this and now we do this. And again,
no time. Hurry up.
We have a written inventory and we are prepared for a long talk. We explain to our partner what we're about to do and why we have to do it. He should realize that we are engaged upon a life and death errand. Most
So
people,
I just want to say something here. I have like that highlighted, underlined, and starred.
yep.
The fifth step, according to the big book, is a life and death errand, which means if I don't do it, I'm either going to live or die, right? So I'm going to live if I do the work. I'm going to die if I don't. And tell us the reason why. Like, what is it that we're trying to get rid of in the fifth step?
Yeah, well, if we've done a fourth step, we've uncovered a lot of things about ourselves, but we've really done a self-appraisal up until this point. And where this really takes off now in step 5, the idea of confession, right? Confession is good for the soul. It gives us a lot of counsel leading up to this point about selecting the right person, a good friend, a spiritual advisor, someone who understands what we're trying to do with
Who's
this.
closed mouth yet unaffected.
Closed mouth, who
Not
won't
family. Don't do it with your family.
won't be affected by it, because there's going to be some stuff that we have to bring out here, and it warns us as well about skipping this step. Like, oh, I've done my inventory, I've seen these things, now I can just skip this and I can move on, because I don't want to tell anybody about this stuff. But yeah, so it's life and death. And
something you just said was that it's up to this point, even after 4, it's a self-appraisal. And it says on 72 that a solitary alone self-appraisal is insufficient. It's not enough. We cannot just do this ourselves and be like, why do I have to share this with another person? And the reason is because if we don't, we're going to think that the things that we're writing down, like when I went into my first 4th step, I thought, like, wait till my sponsor hears all the things that they did. And she's going to be like, oh my God, I understand why you drink. Like, I'm so sorry. Do you need a hug? Like, nobody did that. They were like, let's look at your part. Okay. Are you done talking about their part? Let's look at your part. So let's pretend we did it. We just did hours long talk. The 5th step promises you're about to take us to, and it tells us specifically that we need to do another direction. You want to start returning home?
Yes. Oh, you want
where do you want to start?
No, we can do the bottom paragraph if you want. Yeah. I was just going to say, that this is all part of the unblocking process, right? And really to cut to the heart of it, the life and death part, right, is if I remain blocked off from the sunlight of the Spirit, God, His love, His power, I'm going to drink again.
Yeah. I mean, if you want to read the middle one, that's great. Keep going.
Yeah. So it says here, we pocket our pride and we go to it, illuminating every twist of character, every dark cranny of the past. That's, to me, is telling me I got to be thorough. I got to everything I dug into. I got to bring all this out now to the light.
You know what? Think about it almost like your basement reeks, and you do not know why it reeks. And you're not going to just go in and like half-ass clean it, but not find the reason. You're going to look everywhere for whatever that dead animal smell is to get it out. Because who wants to live in a house with a basement that smells so bad? There's no amount of incense that will cover that up.
Yep.
So we need to get rid of whatever is in there.
Absolutely, like a cleansing process, right? Mm-hmm. Once we've taken this step, withholding nothing, we are delighted. So that's the first kind of experience, the promise there that they're going to tell us. I love that word. It conveys like a sense of lightness. I have experienced this. I have left the last man I did this step with. I left and I just felt like some weight had been lifted off me. So I love that. We can look the world in the eye. The effect that this had on me was the 5th step for me, really, in doing it across from another person and sitting there and opening this up, it really brings me, eye to eye with another human being. And he shares some things with me and I share some things with him. And I get to see that, I'm no better than anybody else. And I'm also no worse than anybody else. And we can just look across the room at each other right in the eye. And a lot of things to do with like self-esteem issues and not feeling worthy and self-pity were lifted from me.
You realize that like a lot of the things that we thought were such a big deal, like the other person's like, yeah, I've been doing, yeah, we get it. And if you've ever listened to a 5th step, they're so boring. Like it's the most boring thing to do as a sponsor. Like the sponsee is like, oh my God, I can't believe, what are they going to think? The sponsor's like, this is so boring because there's nothing new. Like what you're going to tell them what? So you used your body to get someone else to want you, and then you didn't treat people very well. Your family was crap, and you were in bad relationships, and you stole things. Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
In fact, in going through a 5th step with another man one time, I could tell he was like super nervous. And I just, at some point during it, I said a little prayer in my mind and I said, God, please help me. Something's going on here. And I just stopped him and I said, there's something that you need to tell me.
Yes.
That you're holding on to. I said, let's get that out right now.
Yes.
And he did. And he pulled a little piece of paper out from his pocket. And he said, I was going to take this to the grave. I said, let's get it out right now. And after that, poof, it just blew.
But that's because you were unblocked. And because you were unblocked, you were able to feel that and sense that. And I love that you just mentioned that. I do that at the beginning. I do that at the end. I tell them that you will not get better if you're holding on to something.
Absolutely. Yep. I'm going to pick out a few more from here. We can be alone at perfect peace and ease. I mean, I've experienced that. It's just a beautiful thing. Just to, I'm single now and I get to spend a lot of time on my own in my own apartment. And I felt the difference between being agitated, being alone on my own, and what this says here.
And these promises happen because the person that we just did this 5th step with, which is hopefully someone that works out of the book and is working their program, is able to help us see whatever it is that we're upset about or afraid about or whatever, and help us look at it from a different angle. So that when those things come back in our mind, as they will, it's not like they get erased during the 5th step, we think about it and we consider it the way that our sponsor just helped us look at it and the way that God wants us to see it. Because when we were looking at it, I always looked at all of the things I was upset about, like I was looking through a keyhole in an apartment, like one of those little things, and you only see just what's right there. And my sponsor, a good sponsor, opens up the apartment door and it says, look down the hall.
Yep.
How did you start this? And then I start to see, because the whole goal for me is to help others find the patterns that they keep having in life. Because the thing is, life is not going to stop just because we did our 5th step. What's going to happen is we're going to still get upset or afraid, and we need to figure out when that happens in the future, how can I behave differently? Absolutely.
Yep. I'll pick out one more before we go into the next paragraph. We begin to feel the nearness of our Creator. I love that. That's I'm unblocking. God starts to feel a lot closer to me. I feel a lot closer to God, like he's with me in this process. So yes. I love that. Moving on to the next paragraph, because this is important, right? We get some more instructions here. So it says what I'm supposed to do after I return home after having this. And
session. Just to be clear, this is still the 5th step. People always get confused. So the 5th step is 2 things. It's sharing all that junk with God and our sponsor, and then it's taking an hour after to do this. We don't get to step 6 until after we've done this hour.
Yes, this is like preparatory. Mm-hmm. So returning home, we find a place where we can be quiet for an hour. I take that instruction very literally. I take 60 minutes, an hour, carefully reviewing what we have done. We get given a prayer here to say thanks to God from the bottom of our heart that we know him better. That was a line that I skipped over a lot. And I was like, why? So taking this pitiful inventory, right, that's showing all this crazy stuff and my mistakes in all of these situations that I'd held on to, sitting down with another man, talking it through. How do I get to know God better through this process? And I think of a couple of things, right? One, God is truth. So if I'm being truthful, I'm getting closer to what God is, which is truth. And then the other one I love, which is given to us a little bit earlier in the book, at the end of We Agnostics, the last sentence, when we drew near to him, he disclosed himself to us. So as I'm opening all this stuff up to God and I'm saying, hey, this is me, this is the best I can do on my own, God in turn says, thank you, child, and I'm going to reveal myself to you now as well as part of this process. So I love that line.
You know what I think of? Have you ever worked with a dog that was afraid, like a shelter dog, and you can't just go up to it. You have to get down and let it smell your finger and let it know that you're calm. And it takes time for the two of you to walk towards each other and to come together. And I kind of think of like the relationship like that, like it takes time and you need to approach it in like a sacred, gentle way. And we need to do that with sponsees too, because they're terrified, right? And this time is really hard for them, because for me, when I did my first 5th step, I thought okay, I have to do this because she's here doing this with me, but I'm either going to drink and kill myself or I'm going to keep going because nobody's ever heard this stuff and I'm terrified.
Yep, absolutely. Moving on, taking the book down from the shelf. So I've got more instructions there, right? I should take this book down and open it. We turn to the page which contains the 12 steps. Carefully reading the first 5 proposals. So those are the first 5 steps that we can read again. We ask if we have omitted anything, for we are building an arch through which we shall walk a free man at last. Whenever I see the words we ask or we thank, that's a prayer. So I'm supposed to hear at this point, ask God, have I omitted anything as part of this process? Is there anything else you want to reveal to me at this point before I move forward? And I'm reminded again of this beautiful illustration that we're given, that they kind of weave through the book.
Yeah, the foundation.
Yeah, the foundation is our step 1. The cornerstone is our step 2.
It's such an interesting, I'm very into analogies. I had the pleasure of building my own house one time, which I no longer get to live in, but I had the pleasure of doing it. And I actually come from a family of builders, and it's a very interesting thing. If you've ever actually built something, it takes months before you even see the first layer of bricks of the foundation, because they have to dig a hole. First, they have to clear out whatever's in the way. Then they have to dig the hole. Then they have to lay the cement in the basement and lay all the things so to even support the first floor. But if you're driving by and you just see the lot, it looks like we're doing nothing. And It takes months before you see that first row of bricks to even build the house. But in order to build the house, you have to build that foundation. And this stuff is so important, which is why wouldn't you start this immediately? Why would your foundation be something of doing nothing, which is what my foundation was? And I almost killed myself. So I needed to get into the work.
Absolutely. And it's an important, they have us stop here really and do a checklist.
Yes.
We've been thorough to this point. And this is where I think good sponsorship comes in, because, as I'm going through and working with another person, I'm talking about these stones as we're going through. So when we get to this point and I've sent someone home and I say, do this, they're not like, I thought this was about not drinking. Sounds like we're doing construction work here. Where did all this come in? Because it's laid out for us in the preceding chapters, like the keystone being the step.
They actually don't even talk about drinking after step 1.
No.
Because it has nothing to do with drinking. Drinking was our solution, not our problem.
So this arch, and I get to, if I do this work well, and I build this beautiful spiritual arch with this work that God's laid out for me, the hope is I get to walk through it a free man. Free man.
If you're building it with God, you want to make sure that the stones are in place so it doesn't kill you when you walk underneath it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a question I often, I've been asked, not how sober do you want to be? How free do you want to be?
Yes.
That's where this program is leading us with God.
Yes.
So yes, it asked me, is my work solid so far? Are the stones properly in place? Have we skimped on the cement put into the foundation? The cement I always refer back to in There Is a Solution, where it talks about the common malady and the common solution is what binds us together in the fellowship, that we had this common malady of alcoholism, and we come together and we have a common solution on which we can agree, the 12 steps, which is AA, and that's what binds us together. Is that firmly in place in my sobriety as well?
Do you know what, though? I just realized that when you were saying that, the only reason why the common solution keeps us bound together is because it works. Right. Because if it didn't work, it would just be like, oh, try these things. But I've never, ever, I've been sober 21 and a half years. I've never seen someone do this work and not change. It's never happened. 100% of the people that do this work and don't stop stay sober. So there's not many things I can guarantee like that in life, but I can with this work. But they don't know that when they're going through this because they've never done it. Like, how would they know? So they have to trust blindly people they don't even know. Just do this stuff. And they're like, this, like you said, this has nothing to do with drinking. You're like, oh, it does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. So then it gives us then it asks us a question, right? Or it says, if we can answer to our satisfaction, we then look at step 6. So if I can answer all that to my satisfaction, I think the book starts assuming that we're starting to feel a little bit of power now, right? We're unblocking from God, starting to feel his presence, his power. That's part of the deal, right? We're after that power greater than ourselves, because I couldn't live life on my own power. So I start feeling a bit of power here, and if I can answer those questions to my satisfaction, then we can look at step 6. We've emphasized willingness as being indispensable. There is a thread of willingness throughout every single step in this program.
Because you can't do this work without it.
It is so key. And a nice expression that I like to use is, we work this program to the best of our willingness, not necessarily to the best of our ability.
I love that.
Because I've often thought, like, am I working this step right? Am I doing it right? And I had a man once say to me, how about we just do it? And we do it to the best of your willingness, and let's see how it turns out.
But for me, the willingness only comes with desperation. I'm not willing to do anything unless what I'm currently doing is not working. And like any good alcoholic, we're not going to walk in the door and be like, give me some good work to do. Like, we're going to be like, tell me what I have to do to not do anything. And it was only for me when what I was doing, which was nothing other than staying sober and going to meetings, wasn't working, that I was like, I will do whatever it takes. And someone said, if you want out of the pain you're in, you got to do the work. And I actually, I'm making a sign for a friend of mine, and one of my favorite sayings is, the only way out is through. And the way I was painting the stenciled letters, I had to do the farther away letters first. So I did it because it was going to smudge. And when I did it, I saw rough in the word through. And then I just stepped back and I was like, oh my God, in order to get through, it's going to be rough. Like,
it's going to be rough.
It's not possible. Like, and I tell people, like this is not going to be comfortable. Like, if you're hoping that this is going to be like a 5-star hotel, you're in for a real shock, because the only way out is through. And if you saw Shawshank Redemption, they don't go through a rainbow tunnel, right? They go through a different one. So you got to get through it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Are we now ready to let God remove from us all the things which we have admitted are objectionable? I love you. You have a beautiful illustration on this with the server and the dinner and messing around with your food.
Right, because there's a way that you look when you're ready, right? Like, if me and you were going to go out and go see a movie post-COVID, and I knocked on your door and you were in your jammies and like all groggy, I'd be like, you're not ready, Joel. You said you were going to be ready. Why aren't you ready? There's a way we look when we're ready, right? If you sign up for a race and race morning, you're like, crap, I never ran one time, and then you like died the whole way, you weren't ready. So there's a way that we need to look when we're ready, which is why readiness is not only brought up until step 6. So we have to have that foundation we were just talking about, of the hopelessness, the miserable, the physical allergy, the mental obsession, the belief that there's something different, right? The decision, the work, the sharing. And then we go, now that you shared all that junk, are you ready to let it go?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I, this idea of all this question, like, how do I show God I'm ready? Mm-hmm. Right? How do I show God I'm ready? And I think that really ties in with this question here, or this proposition. If we still cling to something, we will not let go. We ask God to help us be willing. I remember my younger sister growing up, and she had this blanket, right? Mm-hmm. It was her favorite blanket. And as my parents are trying to take her, we call it a dummy in England, but I think it's a pacifier, right? So as my parents were trying to wean her off the pacifier, and they let her, have this blanket, and this blanket became like her like safety net. It was everything to her. It was her whole security was this blanket, and she used to suck on it. Yeah. But as she started to get older and older, my parents tried to take it away from her. But she would eventually, as she got interested in other things, she would start to leave it alone. And she would leave it away for about a couple hours, and then she'd be like, where's my blanket? Where's my blanket? And as she started to grow up and mature and became interested in other things, eventually one day it was gone, right? She was just like not interested in it anymore. And I think a lot of times in this whole idea of like, what do I do with my defects? Well, really, 6 and 7 tells us that this is God's part, right? My part is I need to get willing to have them all removed and to turn them over to God. But what is the action I can take? I can start to get interested in other things that would be more aligned with spiritual growth and spiritual
and the kind of person we want to be, right?
Yeah.
On the top of my page, it says the old Carly has to die in order for the new Carly to live. And,
Right.
you know, what a great example. I remember I just only was going after new guys in AA and attracting like really gross relationships. And I remember being like, I don't know how to do it differently. And I remember an old woman, an old timer in AA, she's like, you have a bad picker. And I was like, well, I don't know how to not pick those guys. And you can't not do something. So like you just said, I had to do something different while I was busy not doing it. So instead of focusing on new guys, I started focusing on new girls. And I would be like, who wants to go through the big book with me? I'm gonna be at Tuesday Fairmount at this time. Meet me here. We're gonna put away chairs and do the big book. And I was so focused on helping the new girls that one day I looked up and I was like, those new guys are sick. Like God was able to change the way I saw it because I was busy focusing on something else.
Yeah. And 4 and 5 they're already acts against the self-will, right? My ego does not want to sit down and write inventory.
I love that.
My ego does not want to go and sit in front of another person and bear all this and bring all this stuff out.
That was rule number 1. Don't trust anyone. You're asking me to break rule number 1. I love that.
Yeah, so I'm already starting to show God through 4 and 5 that I'm willing to change. I'm willing to do something against what my instinct, my ego says, you don't need to do this. This is not going to help you. We don't need to do this. So yeah, and one tool I wanted to share with you, which I think is really cool, you know, because we often, when we talk about character defects, you can get into a lot of discussions about, well, what really are they? And the 12 and 12 talks about the 7 deadly sins. Somebody once brought out to me the 7 deadly needs. And so I use these now as I'm thinking about, like, you know, moving away from my character defects and helping and allowing God to take them from me. Then, you know, and I ask myself, am I clinging on to these kinds of things? The need to know, the need to be right, the need to get even, the need to look good, the need to judge, the need to keep score, and the need to control. And I think that really kind of modernizes a little bit about, you know. The
first and the last one are my most challenging. Which are yours?
My most challenging is.
Mine's the need to know and the need to control. Because I don't trust God.
I think the need to be right. I have been someone who very much like to think of myself as being an intellectual person. I like to think I have all the answers. I'm quite studious, as you might
Isn't
tell.
it interesting, like the different ways that we all manifest this? Basically, it's manifesting agnosticism, because we are trying to control the world, our world. The way I like to control it, when you read those, was knowledge and control. Yours is feeling like superior to understanding, right? And we're all just doing the same thing, which is we're not allowing God in.
Yeah. And I think for me, sometimes the hardest 3 words for me to say is
I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm going to give you a challenge.
Okay.
I am going to give you a challenge the next week, up until next Thursday when I see you at our meeting. I want you to say I don't know once a day to another human.
I accept your challenge.
Yes, I'm excited.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm going to take a challenge on myself, and at the same time, I'm going to say I don't need to know, because that's my problem. Is I always want to know something that I'm not supposed to know right now. And I'm like, when am I going to know? And I had a sponsor who was like, you'll know what you're supposed to know when you're supposed to know it. Right now, apparently, you're not supposed to know it.
Yeah,
well,
I will take it. And that's in, you know, in 6 and 7. For me, I have gone through a lot of my life exercising the hold on to things muscle, right? The muscle that pulls things in and holds on. I have not done a lot of exercise with the letting go muscle. And this is an area where this is God's part, right? God takes these, and it's on His time, and it's how he sees best and how he sees fit. And that again is that the need to know, right? It's like there's some things I just don't need to know, and how God is going to work with me through this process is something that will be revealed as I go on my journey.
And here's my question to you. Looking back just over your evidence of the last time you've been sober, right? Has there ever been a time where you did not know what you needed to know in that moment?
In the moment that I needed to know it.
Were you ever presented with a really challenging situation and you did not know what you needed to know in order to make the decision?
No, because when the moment happened, God gave me what I needed.
Yeah.
In that moment. Now, leading up to situations, I often would get anxious or stressed out about things that were on the horizon. But when the actual moment comes, and I use prayer, and I get present, then I've experienced that things have been provided for me in the moment that I need them.
I want to share this one thing, and then you'll finish by reading the prayer. I always get this story wrong. Is Michelangelo the artist, or which is which? Is that the piece?
Yes, he painted the Sistine Chapel, right?
Right, but what was the sculpture?
Was it David?
Yes. Okay, so I always get this wrong when I tell the story. But I heard it from an AA speaker, and it literally saved my life when I needed it to. And he said that and I don't know if it's real, but I like the idea, that when Michelangelo was asked, how did you make David, what's that called? Is it a sculpture?
Yeah.
Yeah, the sculpture. Yeah. He said he did not make David. He said he just removed everything that wasn't David, and then all that was left was David. Mm-hmm. And I used that at a time where the stakes could not be higher, and all I did was I kept removing what was not right. I kept removing what was not right, what was not going to help me with my answer, and kept removing it. And all that was left at the end when I needed it was the answer I needed.
Absolutely.
And so our job isn't to get the answer. Our job is to remove what is not the answer.
And that reminds me of the relationship that we forge in the third step, right? God's the director. He's the principal. He's the father. And in another book that many read, say he's the potter, we're the clay.
I love that.
So he works with us. He works with us. So
if we let God.
If we let God. And I love that. He's saying that David was always there underneath. He just removed, he
just removed what was not him.
What not was.
And I trust God enough today, after all we've been through, that I'm at the place where if I could just get if God and I were on Zoom, I would just be like, God, just remove everything you don't want, because I trust you. But I'm so impatient, and the way that God goes about sculpting me is not the way that I would like God to go about sculpting me, because while it's happening, it's taking too long and it's uncomfortable, and I'm not trusting. So I want you to read the last part of which is step 7, the prayer.
You want to close by reading the 7th step prayer?
Yeah.
And I there's one thing I just want to point out.
Yeah, please.
Pointed out to me was that we get the amen at the end of the 7th step prayer.
Yes.
So if you go
back
back
to the 3rd step.
Yes,
right?
If you go back to the 3rd step prayer, there's no amen. And I was offered the idea, and I believe this now, that the action is fluid. From the end of the 3rd step prayer through 4, 5, and 6, and 7.
Right.
That's one fluid motion that we're supposed to keep moving through swiftly,
right,
with God's help.
Well, if you think about it, in step 3, we're saying in that prayer, I'll do anything, please help me. I cannot bear this. And while you're helping me, we can show others how it's going to work. And then we immediately go into 4, immediately into 5. We do that prayer in 6, and we get to 6 and 7. And then we say, you can have it all. I saw the mess. I don't want any of it. Amen. And so you're so right. It's not supposed to be months and years between 3 and 7. It's supposed to be decision, action, next.
That's right. I'm going to give you an option. Do you want me to read the 7th step prayer in the big book, or do you want me to read my personal 7th step prayer?
Your personal, duh.
Okay. So this is something to hold out to you listeners as well, that I was encouraged to write my own 7th step prayer. And so this is how mine goes. My almighty maker, I am ready and willing that you have all that I am, the light and the dark, the assets and the liabilities. I petition that you take away every defect which blocks me from you and your love and your power and from being of service to your other children. Please grant me strength in each breath to fulfill your assignments as your trusted servant. Amen.
I love that. And you know what you never said? You didn't say, take away my things. You said, as I go out here to do what you need me to do, right?
Yep.
And that's what people don't understand that are not in AA is we're not asking God to take away the hard things. We're saying, be with me through them. Because there is no way to do this without the hard things.
Yeah, and it's, I mentioned in there about taking away the, what blocks me from his love, his power, and being useful.
So you can be useful, right? Because, right. Otherwise, you would never have been able to know that guy needed you to stop him right there and say, what aren't you telling me?
Right. And this whole deal is about being, Dr. Bob, I love what he said. This whole deal is about love and service.
Yep. I love it. And you do that. I called you the other day and I'm like, hey, I need help right now. And you're like, I'm there. And that's family because we're a family and I love it and I love you. And I'm so grateful that you found the book and that you found us and you're stuck with us.
Thanks so much, Carly. This has been a privilege. Thank you so much for having me join this.
It's my honor. I'm grateful for having you and I learned so much today. Thank you so much. For any listeners who would like to get deeper insight into my story, I just released my memoir, Seconds and Inches. It was a dream of mine for decades to write my memoir, and while I do not believe in mixing money and AA, I just wanted to share with the world that I did this accomplishment, and it can be found wherever you normally purchase books, paperback, audio, or digital. I wish you an awesome day. Thank you.